I've just come back from BBC Gardeners World Live with some ideas and trends that work particularly well in small gardens as well as middle-sized gardens. It's Alexandra here from the Middle-Sized Garden YouTube channel and blog. And if I was to look at the trends in a list, I would say logs, corten steel, ponds, coloured garden furniture, and much more mixing of veg and flowers. But of course, let's go into a bit more detail about each. There were logs and wood on many show gardens and in many borders. They were used as garden ornaments, trellis, edging, for raised beds, pavers, obelisks, as general vertical interest and as bug hotels. The advantage of using logs or wood is obviously cost. It's very cheap. I mean, the idea is, I think, that you're using your own prunings, but of course not all of us have necessarily got those particular trees. But even if you have to buy branches or logs, they're not likely to cost as much. Certainly not compared to, say, garden ornaments. Willow or log edging isn't going to last as long as, say, metal edging, and it will break down ultimately, but it'll be good for about 5 years. And just the act of very slowly breaking down is hugely valuable to wildlife because the bugs eat the wood and then the birds eat the bugs, and it's a very happy circle of life. There are also quite a lot of bark chip paths. These are the cheapest form of garden path, and they will need topping up every few years or so, but they do ultimately break down, so they don't leave anything on the land. And it's easy for you to decide that you might want to change your garden path. Certainly, if you haven't fully decided what your plan is for the garden, I definitely consider bark chip paths. Another good thing about bark chip paths is that they allow rainwater to go through them and drain away. One of the main causes of flash flooding in towns and cities is that there's a great deal of hard landscaping, pavements, roads, building. And what this means is that all the rainwater, particularly in a sudden heavy shower, all pours into the drains at the same time, and that causes flash flooding. So anything you can do in your garden to minimise hard landscaping and to allow permeable surfaces will really help that. Logs and insect hotels also create vertical interest, and they can be quite contemporary even, as you can see in this garden called Costa Cadiz by Anna Helps. So the other big thing was corten steel. Now, corten steel's been around in garden design for quite a while, but I think it's really very much the material of today. And the reason for that is that it works well in both natural and contemporary gardens. The rusting side looks really good naturally, and the strong lines are great for contemporary gardens. And you can get corten steel moon gates, corten steel screens, corten steel seating, corten steel raised beds, corten steel edging. It just can be used in almost any way, including ponds. And so when we come to ponds, well, the great thing about ponds, they offer something wonderful for wildlife. They are great to just sit and look at and reflect on at the end of a hard day. And they are better than water features because apparently, and this is what garden designers tell me, water features always go wrong. The very simplest form of pond is just a simple dish with a few pebbles in it. The only thing to remember with that is you'll need to keep it topped up in hot weather. Possibly one of the biggest trends of today is mixing of fruit, vegetables and flowers. In the past, vegetable gardens were hidden away at the bottom of the garden, screened off, very much the practical area, but few of us have big enough gardens to do that now. And anyway, vegetables can be beautiful, particularly as we've also slightly moved away from the sterner planting them in rows and planting as much as you can. After all, people now only plant 2 courgette plants because that's going to be enough for a small family over the summer, and use cut and come again salads and chard, so you don't need a whole row of something and then you get gluts. The other advantage of combining flowers and vegetables is that it can discourage pests and diseases. If you've got a monoculture, in other words, rows and rows of the same thing planted, it's very easy for a pest or a disease to travel down the row. But if it's all mixed up, it can slow that down, which is the principle of companion planting. Adam Frost's garden, A Chef's Table, very much took this on board, and we had flowers and vegetables planted side by side. And there's another big trend here, which is to have your living area very close to the planting. In a very small garden, it really is difficult to keep a lawn going. So what a lot of people are doing is having just as much hard landscaping as they really need for, say, a table to eat at or chairs just to sit at, and then having much bigger planting beds. And the advantage of this is that it really surrounds you with planting. You really feel you're in the garden. And of course, once again, there's more exposed soil so that when it rains, more will drain away. Whereas if you cover the whole of your back garden with hard landscaping, you add to the problems of flash flooding. Many of the flowers in Adam Frost's garden are also edible, and quite a few other gardens at the show also combined edible flowers and vegetables, which is a very lovely way of doing it. There are also outdoor kitchens. Now, outdoor kitchens are a big investment, but Adam Frost's shed is a completely standard shed you can get anywhere from any shed store or DIY, and he's actually going to put it up in his own garden afterwards, he said. The other outdoor kitchens that were there was quite strong colour, and actually one of the things about having either a more natural garden or a very small garden is that strong colour in furniture can really make a big difference. This bright orange kitchen would really create drama in any small garden. And garden furniture has been really quite dreary for quite a long time. There's been sort of a variation of about 6 styles, which all can be found at different price points. But now we're seeing actually much more elegant and different coloured garden furniture. And once again, you just get this little pop of colour, and if your garden is quite green or quite wild or there's not much out at the time, it really makes a difference. The Viewer's Garden by Pip Probert was created with input from the viewers of the BBC Gardeners' World Live programme. And what's very nice about this, it's a great deal about reusing and recycling. It's reusing pallets to make raised beds, it's reusing an old agricultural trough for another raised bed. The lean-to potting shed has been made with things like old doors, including an old shower door. But where there's new material, it's all very readily available from any DIY store, such as concrete pavers or pieces of wood. And indeed, the recycled stuff is not difficult to find. The garden furniture can be found on almost any second-hand site, a very common style of garden furniture. If you'd like more garden design ideas for small gardens, particularly on a budget, then don't miss this video coming up now. And thank you for watching. Goodbye.